Hey guys, I'm Joe. I'm a spray paint artist. I'm also known as Spray Art by Joe and the Spray Devil. Links on the screen to my social media if you like my content, and my Etsy page if you're interested in owning some of my artwork. Give a follow and a like as it helps the algorithm. We also run spraydevil.com, where you can download, print, cut and spray my designs yourself at home. Currently everything is for free. Each project comes with a full stencil set and an accompanying YouTube video explaining how I spray, as well as tutorials, tips and tricks to what no one else in the industry will tell you. That's spraydevil.com, link on the screen. I'd like to thank Mary Kearney and Offaly Libraries Comic Con for inviting me back for a second year. This stencil, the Phoenix, is available for free for a limited time for download from spraydevil.com. The link's on the screen. Just download it, print it out at home on your normal printer, cut it out, spray it with your own spray paints. Now this one's got quite a few layers and quite a few colours. There is a selection of other stencil sets which use much less colours and are quite simple by comparison. That's on spraydevil.com. There isn't a tutorial video. This is the tutorial video. But I also have an extensive YouTube collection of videos if you want to check that out, where I explain more beginner techniques and things like that. Thanks for watching. Let's get into it. So the first thing we do is we put the stones down. We're trying to pin the edges so that the aerosol and the paint doesn't get in under the edge. So you want it close to the edge, but obviously not protruding over. We start by building up the base layers. Here we start with the most dark red. We're going to go through and put base layers of all the colours first, and then we slowly build up the depth with the shadows and the highlights then towards the end. So this one's about 12 layers long. As you can see, we've time-lapsed it. Everything's ×2. The actual spray for this was about 40 minutes long, I think. I often get asked about the fire. What's it for? What's it do? So I use fire to quickly dry the paint underneath it. I try not to heat the paint to the point that it sets it on fire, which is something that you have to watch out for. Be sure to extinguish any fires very, very quickly. You're really trying to just burn the solvents out. So here we're going on to the second layer. It's dark green. If you're following along at home with the Spray Devil stencil set, then each of the stencils are marked. You see in the top right corner it says dark green, so you will know what colour you have to put on. Here I'm using Motip. That's the brand of the spray paint. The spray paint's called Motip Carrot. I use only Motip paints. You can use other paint if you like, but for the effects that I achieve, Motip's best because it's solvent based. Because it's solvent based, it's extremely noxious. So if you are following along, be sure that you're in a well ventilated area, you have a fan set up, or you're outside and you're in an open area. Now the pictures always look a bit funny at the start as we build up these base layers. A lot of it doesn't make sense, but it starts to make more sense as we apply more and more layers and we get more refined. So here I'm blending a pink and a purple. So I often put multiple colours on one sheet of stencil, one mask, to save time, save cuts. Again, you can see the fresh paint sets on fire, ignites pretty quickly, so be quick to extinguish it. You don't want to set it on fire, you don't want to leave the flame sit on the paper for too long, as it will burn the paper, it will blister the paint underneath. A nice bright yellow. Now with the Motip here, you can see what I'm trying to do is I'm leaving the undercolours shine through, so I'm not going to go too opaque with it. If you wanted it more opaque, you would spray paint it white first, leave the white half dry, and then paint the orange colour on top, and that would make it much more vivid and brighter and make it stand out much more, very much more opaque. Have a little cup off camera, which I throw all the stones into. You have to watch out, the stones will become sticky as you start to do this, and obviously you're going to use the same stones over and over. As they build up layers of paint, they become sticky, and that can become a pain to peel off, and as you're peeling off, it can pull the stencil. So you've got to be careful when you're pulling your stencil off. Make sure that your stones are removed and they're not stuck to the paper underneath it. Plenty of fire. Make sure anything behind the flame isn't flammable, so you know there's no papers, no plastics, no sponge, no, I don't know, anything at all that could possibly set on fire. Make sure everything's cleared out of your area. So here we're going for a nice bright red. I allow the red to blend into the undercolours to allow the yellows to come through a bit more. So I don't go fully red, fully opaque. I just blend it nicely, and the solvents in the paint will blend into the underlayers, creating new paints and new tones. It can get a bit sticky, that's why we have to dry it. Plenty of fire. This is the first highlighting layer, adding a bit of depth to the green. So the first layer was a very, very dark green. This one's more of a mid-tone. You see that I apply more paint in the middle than I do on the edges to leave a shadowing bleed. Again, another highlighting green layer, nice bright green this time, nice and vibrant. It's important to make sure each layer is nicely aligned. I use a technique that I call cornering off. I pick a corner, generally the top right. I make sure that it is parallel on both sides of the 90-degree angle. This will ensure that every time that I put a piece of layer down, it will always align with the previous layers and the layers to come. I'm often asked about my paper. So what I'm painting on is 280 gram poster card. It's high gloss on one side and matte on the other. I paint on the gloss side. The paper is 60 gram Xerox copy paper, very thin, very cheap. I recently moved on to drawing digitally and printing out on my A3 printer. So that's how this was achieved, was through digital drawing on a tablet, converting each individual layer into its own separate file, printing each file out. I find that the printer is very good for keeping everything aligned once the file's original size is consistent, which is all provided in my stencil sets on spraydevil.com. See, it gets very sticky. Adding a bit of yellow glow without a mask, without any stencil. Be careful there if you try that yourself. It's very easy to overspray and end up with too much and it won't look good. Just retouching the red layer. I think the lips were missing, so I redid the lips there. More stones, you can't have enough stones. The tighter you can keep your stencil to your painting, the better the lines are going to be, the crisper it will be. Here's a technique I call quarter spray, where we only try to get a quarter of the opacity from the can. It's very easy to achieve with Motip as it's solvent based. It's much harder with the likes of Montana, as Montana is a very thick spray paint. Motip is much thinner, much easier to achieve these tonal differences in quarter levels of spray. As you can see, there's quite a bit of work goes into it. This stencil would have taken 3.5 hours or so to cut. Adding in some black now. The piece starts to come alive when you start to add the depth. This is only a quarter spray, so it's not going to be too excessive. We're not looking for black, we're looking for the undercolours to come through and bleed into the black, creating new colours completely. as with the black, when we add the white layer, it gives the painting a nice pop. It starts to pull things together. I know the can looks like it's light green, but it's not. This is a white layer. The can's been sprayed by the previous greens and it's got some paint on top of it. This is definitely a white layer. I lightly dust, allowing the layer to dry as I go around the page, and then I'll revisit the first starting point where the paint's dried, and I'll give it a second coat to achieve the opacity that I'm looking for here. Now we're just going to add the finishing touches. Add black and white splashes to achieve particles and dirt. It adds movement to the piece. I'm covering over the main picture. We don't want to destroy her yet. A little puff of white around the edge of the mask gives a nice outline and a highlight from behind. Going over that white with the yellow makes the yellow nice and opaque rather than it sitting on a black background. It makes it more uniform at this stage. Here we're throwing in some white splash. Gives the fire a bit of life, makes it look like it's moving and jumping. Then we add some black, which would be like dirt and soot. Do a bit of blue for a highlight on the suit. Now this piece would have been finished off with Posca pens. I would have added a bit of black and a bit of white just to add some extra detail around the eyes and the hair, a few lines here and there that needed to be exaggerated or accented. And that's it, guys. From start to finish, this is how we spray paint. Thanks for joining. I really do appreciate you watching. If you've stayed from the start to the finish, really do appreciate it. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the Comic-Con. Thanks very much, guys. Hope you enjoyed. If you're interested in getting into spray painting and you want more information and you have some questions, feel free to get onto me onto my social media. All of my paintings are for sale on my Etsy shop, which is findable by typing Spray Art by Joe, one word. Thanks for watching.